Good afternoon, good morning, whatever time it is, wherever you're watching. Welcome to the 2023 AI Revenue Summit. My name's Steve Error. I'm head of sales here at Signals. We're really excited to have you here. The guests that we have in this particular session, honestly, it's one of the reasons we're holding the AI Revenue Summit. Last summit we had in the spring, we reached out to some of the people who were attending and said, hey, what topics and technologies do you want to hear about? The number one thing we had was AI. I reached out to the LinkedIn world, and that's how I got to meet Jordan. And then I'd known Dan. Dan's been working in the AI space for a while. To give you a little bit of an introduction, Dan is the founder of Wrench.ai. He has created over 15 personalization AI go-to-market products. He actually has an AI patent for hyper-targeting. He's launched over 60 crowdfunding platforms, platform for innovation and strategy at Conagra. Did I say that right? Conagra? Yeah. 20 plus years in behavioral sciences. He went to the wonderful and exceptional University of Utah, where he majored in the same thing I majored in, which was argumentation and decision-making. He's the other person who majored in that. And he wrestled an anaconda.
I'll tell you later, but yes.
So many questions. The other guest I'm really excited for. This is if you're ever questioning social selling, the value of LinkedIn, Jordan is my use case of why this is awesome. I reached out to everybody and said, hey, the person you want to talk to about AI is Jordan Crawford. We connected, and before we knew it, we were sitting around my kitchen table having a chicken dinner and talking AI and strategy and marketing. And we've been in touch ever since. So Jordan runs a B2B data agency that helps companies go to market with bespoke data sets, and is the creator of Jordan GPT that helps define your ICP and persona and give you campaign ideas. And then he teaches people how to, and organizations, how to use AI using 50 to 100 GPT-4 calls under the hood, which you can actually give a try at blueprintgtm.com. So, Dan, did I miss it? Leave anything out?
No, you did wonderfully. Thank you.
What about you?
Well, although you talked about him wrestling an anaconda, like, how am I going to beat that? Like, no one told me, you didn't tell me that was going to be like the intro, and I needed to come up with a way better stat. It's like, forget all the AI stuff.
I don't know that that's a positive as much as it's a what? So, yeah.
You get it, right? So,
yep. Well, great. Well, we have so many questions. If you have questions about Dan wrestling an anaconda, reach out to Dan on LinkedIn as well. So
demand it, actually.
All that aside, let's dive into it. Yeah. So I think we do kind of want to lay some groundwork, and I realize that we've probably all heard this probably several times today, even, but we want to talk a little bit about AI, what it is, and get kind of an idea of what predictive text is. And kind of want to talk about that a little here. Dan, you've got some thoughts on this. And Dan and Jordan, kind of give us your thoughts on what this is.
Yeah, please hop in. So largely what we want when we're dealing with AI is to help people understand that it's just kind of an umbrella term. There's narrow AI and there's general AI. General AI is the Skynet that people think of that potentially takes over the world. All indicators are that we're probably still a long way out from that. Narrow AI is basically specific purpose AI that's for very, targeted and tight use cases. There's machine learning. That's what most people had heard about before 2023, where you basically were able to say, okay, I want AI to basically pick out, like, say, a person in the road or the silhouette of a person in a road. Person, dog, sign, whatever. That's machine learning. What we're dealing with today are GPTs and generative AI. Their job is largely to create and predict the next word. Its job is to generate content. And specifically in most GPT transformers, it's redundant, but it's basically predicting the single next word. The really big thing to understand between those two that I think gets a lot of people into trouble is they oftentimes use them for different applications. They assume that just because GPTs and Chat GPT kind of sounds and reads like a lot of really great kind of decisioning, that it's intelligent. Reality is it's actually just spitting out the next most common word that it's been trained to deliver. Can you show those slides really quickly for me one more time?
Yeah, sure.
A good example of this is your partner saying, "I'll do the dishes tonight." It's like, that's a prediction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I had an employee who really wanted to go see the new Mission Impossible movie. His wife did not. He put in, we put in a great prompt into Chat GPT saying, "Hey, write a letter to Gabe's wife explaining why their marriage is in the balance if they don't go see this movie." Now, it wrote an amazing letter. The thing I will say though is the GPT, the AI did not know what a movie was. It didn't know who Gabe was, and it did not know what a marriage is.
Yeah.
Right. But it wrote an amazing humorous letter that fit the bill.
I
Jordan,
will
you were
say,
going to say something.
yeah, I will say this, like, we are going to land the plane. We're going to give you actionable tactics with real prompts that you can use. But this, the stuff that Dan's talking about is absolutely important for us to understand, because this thing is so big, it's so massive that the opportunities for you to use it in the wrong way are immense. And so Dan's going to help us focus our understanding, and then we will get into actionable tactics that you can use.
Yes.
Perfect.
So very quickly, just the last thing I want people to understand is that what you see on your screen there is from the white paper on Chat GPT. It's the training data that it was provided to read. So if you think about it, basically those GPTs, those generative pre-trained transformers, their job is basically to just, if you say, hey, if I give you this sentence, what is popular words that follow the second half of this sentence? It was trained on the Common Crawl, which is basically the internet, the publicly available web. It was based on Wikipedia. It was based on basically all the digital copies of books since Gutenberg. So that's really important because, one, it's read a huge, what they call a corpus of text. What's really, really also important is what it didn't read. It didn't read all the private stuff. It didn't read people's emails. It didn't go behind the scenes to understand how Google Analytics work. It didn't actually go get its degree and pass the bar exam. What it did is just read publicly available blogs and things like that that said, hey, here's a question from the bar exam. And that what it is doing, it's not actually intelligent. It's not spitting out the actual answer that it understands to the bar exam. It's literally just spitting out the text, the most common answer that people are posting on the publicly available web. So it's not sentient. It doesn't know what and who you are and all these other things. It doesn't know what marriage is. It just knows which words are next to marriage based on what was publicly fed into it. All right, Jordan, I'm going to shut up now.
Well, no, I mean, I really wanted to enforce that point because the way that you should think about this is the world's greatest collection of experts and idiots. So it's like, have you ever read YouTube comments? Like, yeah. It's like, I'm the guy in YouTube comments. And so like GPT is like, oh, that guy knows what he's talking about. It's like, no, it's like the lulz and also like Ernest Hemingway. And so that's how you need to think about it, is like, if you want more Ernest Hemingway and less lulz, like those are it's the world's most powerful 12-year-old. So what we're going to do here is the best way to teach the world's most powerful 12-year-old is to walk them through all of the steps to get them to the place that you want. So you can think about ChatGPT as trying to direct a 3-ton hippopotamus, which I think is about how much they weigh. And so the way to do that is you can't just say, go from 0 to 50 on a dime. You got to move the hippo a little bit to the left, a little bit to the left. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you exactly how to do that in 3 particular ways. First, I'm going to show you how to come up with campaign ideas. ChatGPT is immensely creative, but people ask it to be too creative. They just say, do all my work for me. And it's like, sure, but and it's like really bad at that, right? So we're going to give you the prompts that you need to have it come up with like really unique campaign ideas. It's very creative. Then we're going to dive into B2B offers. So one of the single best things that you can do to get any of your campaigns to perform better is provide a really compelling offer. Most people, their offer is, hey, Steve, you and I, we wear clothes. Oh my gosh, we're the same person. You should buy my B2B SaaS. Here's everything about it, right? This is what most people's outbound look like. And if I came to Steve, and which I did, My offer, Steve, was like, hey, Steve, can you make me some chicken? He made me some chicken at his house. And then I said, can I give you some data for free? He's like, I will take data for free. Like, will you go use it? He's like, I will use it. Right. And so I had a great offer, which was to come over for chicken. He took me up on that offer. And then it was to actually help him generate revenue before we ever got to a purchasing decision. And then we're going to go over subject lines if we have time. And then Dan's going to land this plane with actually showing you how to take this to market using Wrench and basically building some of the cool AI stuff into a product. So let's dive into it, Steve. If you're
let's right here.
So don't be furiously taking notes, because we will share the whole ChatGPT conversation with you. These links are public links. So you can even you want to use machine learning right now. If you take a screenshot with your iPhone, you can copy the text in the Photos app right now. Apple made this easy, but we will share these links. I want to specifically call out this custom instruction. So ChatGPT released this recently, which you can give it context on who you are. And so I said, I always use this phrase, I am the world's greatest AI B2B expert. So I lied to ChatGPT because it doesn't check. And these are my custom instructions. So when I have a conversation with it, it kind of knows a little bit about who I am and what I'm going for. I'm like, Jordan, you talk about campaign ideas. Why the hell do you care about B2B persona and ICP experts? Like, why does that even matter? Well, we're talking about moving the 3-ton hippopotamus. So we're going to get there. But to do that, you got to start way at the beginning. What are the first principles that you can anchor on that can start to get that hippo moved in the right direction? So it's like, here are the people that know a lot about ICPs and personas. Okay, great. So now I've said, focus on the experts. I want the experts. I don't want the lulls. I don't want the meme machines. I want the people that write, that are experts, right? That's where I want to move you, Hippo. Great. What makes a perfect ICP and buyer persona that a VP of product marketing, these are like their exact role is to build ICPs and personas. What makes a perfect thing? Well, like that they would all love and agree with. Like some of this is little Jordan being fun with the prompts. But it's like, great. It's like specific. It's data driven. I haven't even created a ICP or persona yet. Here's an example. I said, okay, great. Now create a template that these experts and 3 VPs of product marketing would all agree is perfect and complete. Now, what I'm doing here is this wonderful theory called tree of thought. And so I'm getting it to eventually provide a lot of examples here at a high level. And then I'm going to have it cull down those examples and say, get rid of these. And so I always bring the 3 musketeers into any chat that I do. Who are the 3 musketeers that can help me? And I ask ChatGPT to define those musketeers, and then I have them debate. So, okay, great. So we've got an ICP and persona. Personal insights, hobbies, interests, right? You don't, sometimes I don't even read these, the responses to these early prompts because I'm just trying to move that hippo. Great. Now,
you're in effect, you're training GPT on not just what it knows, but what you want it to do.
Exactly. Yeah. And to do that, the further back you start at the very first thing that's most important. So the way that you should think about this is like, if the world's brightest 12-year-old came in and knew nothing about your subject and you wanted to get them to start on day 1, you can't say, define an ICP and persona. They're like, what the hell is an ICP and persona? But if I could say to them, go read about an ICP and persona, and they could read all of the text on the internet about ICP and persona and come back 10 seconds later and say, here it is. They're like, okay, great. So you should think about this. Like if you're onboarding a new employee and you know that they can do the job, but they know nothing and they have no context of your industry. That's the world's smartest 12-year-old. Okay. Now here's a B2B SaaS website, create a buyer and ICP. Now notice I just pasted in a bunch of junk. I went to this company's website. I just pasted in a bunch of their website, and then it defines what that looks like. It's B2B SaaS companies, medium to large enterprises that have this technology environment, like data-driven Dana. Look at that. It even rhymes for me. Amazing. So, okay. So we've got this, right? Now create a very detailed buyer persona for this company. So it goes in and it creates the buyer persona. It's like, okay, what do they care about? And I'm going to skim through this because you'll have the full chat. It's really important for you to know my thinking here because you want to replicate the thinking, not necessarily any of these individual prompts, because you may be doing this for something else. Great. What are on these buyers' minds? What are their quarterly and yearly goals? What are they personally thinking about work? What matters to them most, right? So now what I'm doing is I'm saying, get in the mind of the buyer. Sales performance and metrics. And Steve, you should recognize these. These are your buyers. Forecasting and accuracy. Lead quality improvement signals, perfect example. Process optimization, team alignment and training. Well, what are the yearly goals? Like alignment, like technology stack, sales and marketing collaboration. Oh, this is a big one. MQL, it's an SQL. We should just fight about it until the end of the day. And who cares about revenue? Let's have a definitional battle, right? Data-driven decision making, return on investment. They want efficiency, right? So it's like, okay, great, empathy for my buyer, right? Given data about the product or service and the target companies, let's break down potential scenarios when a company might need the product or service most. Perfect example for Signals. So website traffic not converting. That's a great moment for Signals to go after people. Lead prioritization challenges. So how do you prioritize leads and find the best leads? Poor alignment between sales and marketing. So if Steve is going to help you define your ICP, that's what's going to merge those two things. Ineffective outbound efforts. Why get someone cold when you can get someone warm on the website? Limited visibility into anonymous website visitors. That's a little bit of a gimme. Inefficient sales and marketing tools, customer engagement. Okay, great. Now take these ideas and turn them into multiple campaign, consider the company life cycle, their problems, and our product service. Evaluate each idea based on its relevance and frequency in the target market, right? I want it to occur often and be painful. Explore high level. So I just want a super high level, right? So it gives me campaign ideas, sales and marketing synergy, maximize outbound success, illuminate your dark data campaign. You should run that one, Steve.
Yeah, I like it.
Unlock your pipeline potential. It even rhymes. Make every visitor count. That's a good one, right? Like aimed at business with high website traffic, but low conversion rates, right? Perfect example. Now let's improve upon them. Like using depth first search, ensure each idea is optimized, right? So all I'm doing is saying like, modify this, like keep going. Now what I do is I'm like, okay, pretend you're innovative Ian, the ideal buyer for this company service. You are pitched similar services every day. You see similar messages. Like you're very skeptical of new things from strangers. You're very creative and know exactly what you want. So this is where I'm bringing in a variety of experts. Now, you don't see this, but in a previous prompt, I asked like, who are the best at this kind of stuff? And so I just brought in their names here so I can kind of think about this. So it's like, so now these people are debating. So I'm having they're getting a free debate for me. Only now replace it, right? Replace only the best ideas, like provide your best campaign. Rediscover your website's hidden treasure, dive deeper, score better, unveiling the subconscious intent of your leads, right? This is a much better campaign. Like, yes. Unifying heartbeats, synchronizing your sales and marketing pulse campaign. Wow, really good. Empower your outbound arrows, strike with precision and speed. Oh my gosh, it's so much better than the original ideas. Unlock your website dark room, illuminate. Like, so this is really, really much better. And then I just say, hey, let's improve upon it some more. Then I actually said, like, give me an ad here. And then I'm just repeating all my prompts. So you can see the prompts here. So this is like a perfect example of how to come up with campaigns here. Here are all the prompts. Yeah.
I think this does highlight, and I'm this highlights one of the things that I think people they misuse GPT for, which is, oh, great, this is a super easy way for me to go ahead and write an email. I talked to an email marketer once. He's like, yeah, I just throw like, hey, write an email to VP of sales. It does this, this, and this, and it shoots out an email, and then I'm good to go. You spent some time and energy training this tool to get you exactly what you want. And as a result, he got the same email that everybody else gets. You're getting hyper specific, really good content that you can go ahead and start to build out.
Yeah. And the interesting thing too, is it knows who you are. It knows everything about the context of your problem. It knows who your buyer is. It knows the context of their situation. So if you ask it to write something, it has that whole history to anchor against. And you can say, evaluate this from what my product or service does based on the understanding from the website, and evaluate it from the perspective of the buyer, and have these two groups debate about this to make sure that this email talks about the problems. Now, I never use the word email in any of my prompts because it's to Dan's point, this is trained. There's no great historic authors of email content. No, there's only really terrible people that have written sequences from 2011 that everyone copies and uses. And so it's like, if you ask it to write an email, it's like, sure, I got you, boss. 47 pages, all about me, no problem, right?
Right.
And so the reason that those templates are on the internet is because they stopped working, so someone had no problem sharing them to get content marketing. If they were great sequences, they wouldn't have shared them with you because they were making them money. So it's like, of all of the things that GPT knows about, email is the thing that it's absolutely the worst at. But like, can it like create code and like a gluten-free recipe for salmon? Like, it can do that for you, no problem.
Using Gatorade. I tried it, actually. I did that very thing.
Yeah.
Chocolate chip recipe. I just didn't cook it because I didn't have the guts.
Yeah, exactly.
I gotta say, Jordan, to your credit on that. Like, again, we were talking earlier about how using like different methods to kind of different AI is good at different decisioning kind of methodologies. Your prompts, I gotta give you credit, buddy. The different methodologies of hitting it. All right, talk about their job title, talk about their pain points. I mean, you're basically getting in the orbit, if you will, of that hippo. You're getting and you're asking the question in different ways to get better context. So if your job is Chat GPT and you're trying to understand the context of what this prompt is trying to get at, Jordan's session there is giving you, okay, what industries are we talking about? What are the people? What are their pain points? What are they doing? And one, we'll probably get into this a little bit later, but man, is there a lot of focus on behaviors and interests and other things there that are a really big deal. I got to give you credit. That's a smart way to go around and develop those personas.
Well, yeah, and thank you so much. But your analogy is better than mine, than Hippo. The universe is a good, when you enter this thing, imagine you're starting at the center of the universe, and like, you got to get to Earth. Well, you can't just say make a left on the way to Earth. It's like, well, where is it in the universe? Well, it's like kind of on this side. Okay, well, it's in the it's in the Milky Way galaxy. Okay, well, where is it? Like, which planet? Well, it's the third rock from the sun. Okay, well, where's the sun? What sun's them?
And where are you right now?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Let's start there. Let's start the like, where are you?
Yeah.
Like, there's
you're absolutely steering and giving it coordinates to get you closer and closer to the content, the people, and the type
like,
of
you got the world's largest rope, and you got to just like pull in all of the knowledge to you. So we're gonna skip the offers, which I think are really good, but it's very similar.
Because I was gonna say the worst part about writing emails for me, without question, every single time, is subject lines.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Well,
it's like, what do I put?
Yeah, it's
signals and blueprint. You know, it's like,
oh God, don't do that.
Right. But
well, no, it's so funny because everyone has this problem. Now, before I dive into this, I'm going to give you a good subject line hack, which is bait but not switch. So let me give you an example of bait and switch. Steve, your daughter's in the hospital. Just kidding. I got a B2B SaaS offer. Like, that's a bait and switch. So Steve's going to be like, I hope you never contact me again and that you die in some pit. Right. But if I bait, but not switch, and I say something like your concerns, right? It's like, well, what are my concerns? Right. And it's like, aha, like, I've got you into the email. So the subject line has done its job for you to open the email. And the single thing that people do is they make it a complete thought. So they're like, oh, just like, let's complete the entire thought. So it's like, great, I can delete it right from here. The only purpose of a subject line is to get you to open the email. So let's dive into subject lines. So I'm doing this in a different way, right? Before we gave it a bunch of context, I'm going to do what Charlie Munger calls inversion thinking. I'm going to start with the outcome in mind and then try to reverse into my use case. Give me some of the most shocking copywriters who write wildly things that are jarring and get people's attention that are very controversial, right? I didn't give it any context about me, right? I'm only going for the open. And it's like, hey, like, I'm not here to provide, I'm sure to maintain focus. Like, so I had to like try this prompt because it's like, that would be too shocking for me to, so it's like, it gave me people, it's like, give me 10, 3 to 4 word subject lines that these people might write that would shock the person reading, like ultra controversial, right? Ditch the boss, profit or perish, right? Shred your contract, AI or a buy.
Ooh.
All right, Felicia. Like tech titans tremble, no more meetings. Like say no to updates. So in this case, like it has no idea what I'm selling or pitching. It's like, okay, now you now evaluate. So then what I tried to do is like come up with a first line to go to that shocking example, right? Notice your promotion recently. I bet Steve would be proud, but don't you want their job? Ditch that boss by doing thing to get Steve's job, right? So I try to like write into the subject line to try to land this plane. And it's like, so evaluate this, right? As these great copywriters, it's like, it may generate mixed feelings, right? I was like, yeah, it might generate, like, if I tell you to replace your boss, like it's provocative. Like, so given your, my prompt is like, use AI as an empathy machine. I'm like obsessed with using AI as an empathy machine. So it changed it for me. Congratulations, you reached promotion. I'm sure Steve is proud. However, why stop there? Empower yourself with thing and secure a path towards even higher leadership. That's a much better sentence, right? Because it's not about replacing Steve. It's like, how do you help? How do you get promoted, right? And so it did a really good job there. So it started out with a controversial idea. I gave it an example, and it fixed it.
There's actually some really good behavioral science behind this method. So
Yes,
again, to your credit, my friend, you've done some study in behavioral sciences that's basically like, hey, how do you actually generate word of mouth marketing? And like, there's basically three components to that. It's basically, can you introduce something that's novel into the conversation? That's what he's doing here with like the off the cuff stuff. The interesting thing about when you introduce kind of those really surprise concepts into the conversation like that, they actually have an exponential impact. So the challenge that most people mess up, they need to be novel. They then need to be relevant, meaning they need to be very, very surprising, but they also have to be relevant to the conversation. That's what you did when you landed the plane. And then the final piece for word of mouth marketing is the tools to share. We'll skip that one for now. But it's actually a very good thing. You can see in a bunch of campaigns like Old Spice. Do you remember the high enders, the guy that was like picking up the surfboard?
Yeah. That's great. Yeah.
That whole premise was built off of this because they were going, hey, if we can introduce something that's very surprising into the conversation, it becomes memorable.
Yeah.
If we can make it and keep it kind of relevant to the guys, the anaconda thing, that was this exact reason. No one's going to forget that. They will be like, hey, you're the anaconda guy.
It's funny that you say that because it reminds me of the guy that did like the credit locking thing where he shared his social security number and he's like, no one can hack me, and like he like so it's like so interesting because maybe he actually made more money on that because more people talked about it, even though he like had his identity stolen a bunch of times. But it's funny that you say that because that's exactly, I didn't share it. We'll share it in the link, but that's exactly what I did in the B2B offers. I said, give me offers that people in the past have like responded for that were unique. And so I started with some context of offers.
Oh, wait, one last point on that. The exponential impact of the surprise, it goes both ways. So if it's exponential and relevant, you get a substantial bump in satisfaction from the user and the recipient. If it's surprise and an irrelevant, the exact opposite happens. So like when you're in your car and you see road rage, it's because you just got surprised by something that you didn't expect to happen. You have an exponential response to, like, I mean, let's be honest, you should have expected that guy not to use his blinker when he merged, but that's what happens. So if you go really surprising but irrelevant, they mark you as spam, they block you, they whatever. So you do have to kind of walk that fine line.
Well, that's clickbait, right?
It's irrelevant to the concept, right? No switch. I totally agree.
That's you just described clickbait when it's surprising and irrelevant. That's clickbait.
You get pissed, right? You get furious.
It also reminds me of, I've got a friend of mine who's an author. He's got a couple of novels that he's published, and I was talking to Rob about how he starts, because it's, everybody wants to write something maybe, and I said, so what's the process? And he goes, I actually write the last page of the book first. Right. So when he said you start with the kind of the end in mind where you want to go with these subject lines, that's kind of came to mind, where he says, okay, this is where I want the characters in my story to end up. Now I'm going to write the complete opposite of that. And that's where they're going to start. And the story is getting, through that arc. And I kind of like look at this with like the subject lines is that's kind of what you're doing here is you're thinking about, okay, where do I want to end? And how do I start that with the subject line?
Yeah. And in that case, and I think that people need to break out their thinking, which is, I want it to end with an open. The goal of a subject line is not for you to, great, I read this subject, where can I submit my credit card? Like,
Yeah.
it's just like no B2B sale has ever happened that way. So it's like, you just need to think about this
We hope,
micro.
though. We
Yeah.
still hope.
Yeah. It's just like, respond with just your credit card number and we'll complete this B2B transaction today. And
We'll
tell
tell you
me the
about it all
limit.
later.
Yeah. Tell me the limit. That would be a great subject line. Here's my credit card number. I trust you so much. Go use it on me. And then we'll have a call if you enjoyed your coffee on me.
Right.
But that's a perfect. And this is inversion thinking. And Charlie Munger says, all I want to know is where I'm going to die so I can not be there. Which is like, yeah, it's like a great idea. So I'll put it in a second here, but like, give me 10 out of the world. Like, so it's like, coders in utopia, sass or sorcery, aliens stole your data. It's ridiculous. Like, I'm like, okay, like, more controversial, more objectionable, like kill your IT to do snake oil. So I'm just like, I wanted to give me more and more ideas. And then I did the same thing, right? It's like, oh, code the new snake oil. Let me know if these legit copywriters, like, with such a huge, and I just invented a service. It wasn't processing for any particular company. With such a huge engineering team, AI, all but the world's greatest B+ engineer, you're sure paying a lot of that engineering team snake oil. Would you think they could charm more snakes with these AI in their coding? And this is just me writing here. And it's like, okay, it could be clarified. With a sizable engineering team and AI potentially matching their skill, you might wonder if you're pouring resources into a bottomless pit. Could your team create more value by hiring AR in their coding, right? It did a better job, but it only did a better job because I had all of the world's best copywriters, and I moved the model into the more written side of the world, the book side that Steve talked about, the people that are credible and less Jordan commenters on the internet. And if you haven't seen him, you need to Google Ken M. He is the world's greatest troll on YouTube answers, like the YouTube answers from the 90s. He is fantastic. And the last thing I'll say, these are the prompts. The last thing I'll say is, and Steve, you can kill the share. The last thing I'll say is you need to look at his particular troll where it was like, NASA has Curiosity rover land on Mars. And it's like, why do they get to explore Mars when the rest of us suckers have to go work down here on Earth? And so I was like, that is like A+ trolling. All right. Yeah, Dan, I want you to show us how we do this. Like, we've got some good ideas here, but now I want to like land the plane, show us how we actually take this to prospects.
Steve, can you share that other deck back on to go to the prompt engineering? So one thing that's really quick I'll go really quickly on the slide, but just rewinding just a little bit, those AI generative prompts, the content that they're coming up with, it is zooming in, and your job is to try to zoom in and get closer and closer. If you're using the analogy of kind of the universe, right? Like, all of these words and all of that content is built like the universe, and you're trying to make your way to the Milky Way galaxy and then make your way to our solar system by giving it more and more context in your prompt so it knows more about the subject matter that you're talking about. On your screen here is basically when you go and you talk to marketers, like, behind closed doors, they all admit they don't actually know what matters. They rarely actually get time to test it. Their data is in silos. They don't have access to it. They don't have the human resources to get it to talk to one another. It's actually relatively recently that data has actually been able to even get into the same data lakes where they can analyze it. So most of the time when people go, okay, well, what really does matter? We talked about how you needed something novel, but it still needed to be relevant to the recipient party. Most people don't know. Most people don't test it. I mean, raise your hand if you've ever been at that company. You're just like, A/B testing. I'm going to try the first thing I can think of, and I'm going to try the second thing I can think of, right? Like, I mean, that's again.
I've got to get this out. So I got to,
That's why the GPT method that Jordan's putting out here is actually really good, because he's trying to build in the novelty. He's giving himself multiple options. Go to the next one for me, Steve. But very importantly, as we talked a little bit earlier, the risks and pitfalls with it. Remember, what it's showing you is what is popular around that content and context. It isn't showing you things that were private. It isn't showing you things that were tied to conversions, right? It's showing you what was published in blogs. It's showing you what was available to it in high frequencies. So be careful and make sure that you kind of choose the right tool. AI and generative AI is really, really good for ideation. It's good for coming up with prompts and ideas and content and things like that. But if you're rounding a baseball diamond, it takes you to second base. I'd be very wary of people that are like, yeah, I can give you this prompt and it's perfect. You should send it out exactly as is. I go, no, 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 no. Like you just saw, Jordan created 10 different prompts. He's not going to send all 10. You're not even going to create campaigns with all 10. Some of them suck. Some of them are really good, right?
Yeah.
That's the nature of that technology.
Aliens stole your data. I love
Exactly.
that.
Exactly,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So with that generative AI, that can get you into kind of the solar system that you want to be with. It will give you ideas that will oftentimes very much speed up your ideation and your creative process. But don't assume just because it's in there that it's right. In terms of, Jordan talked about the email problem, right? It gives you 3-page essays. Like no one ever answered that.
Well, and Dan, I do want to make something that we're not going to share here, but that you talked about before we hit record here is that you can ask AI to help you prompt AI. So you can wrap all of your prompts in like, here is my goal. Do not answer this question. Just evaluate my prompt. What would ChatGPT fail at? So you can kind of inception this a little bit. And say like, hey, I know AI is bad at these things. Am I doing any of these things in this prompt? And then you can help yourself learn. You can teach it to teach you how to prompt better, which is like,
Yeah, go to the next slide. I think we may have it in here. This is really quick.
Yeah.
What Jordan was referring to is the green text on the right. So again, everybody will make this stuff available to everyone on the call, but that is a prompt that basically tells ChatGPT, hey, I want you to act like my prompt engineer. I'm not sure exactly what my perfect prompt looks like. Please help me kind of clarify and give you more context for what we're trying to accomplish when you don't have pre-written tasks like Jordan's already handed out.
One thing I want to say, you just dropped a phrase there that I want to highlight.
Yeah.
That is a title that I'm starting to see at companies. And it's only in the last 6 to 8 months that I've heard this title, which is prompt engineer. I mean, a year ago, did anybody even
LinkedIn or whatever? What number one in demand job title on LinkedIn?
No one knew what that was a year ago.
And oftentimes, because ChatGPT launched basically mid-December of last year, right? So a lot of that work came up, and oftentimes too, a lot of those prompt engineering jobs, they're related to the fact that you need to kind of understand how those models work, so you know what to ask, so you actually get useful time. I mean, if you go do the math, when we were building some of our tools, we were looking into kind of like what worked. And one of the things that you find in productivity, those GPT tools are fantastic at coming up. Like if you say, give me 10 subject lines, it'll give you 10, but you may spend the next 3 hours tuning the prompt if you're not careful, and you could have just written them by hand and saved yourself a ton of time. So it's very important on these. So number one, give it instruction, ideally with reasoning, right? So like add your job or role or summarize this text. So I'm kind of laying out there just what Jordan did. He was basically jumping around. He was giving it a lot of context, this person, this job title. He was basically helping us get into the correct solar system in the universe by giving it a bunch of different information that helped us get more and more targeted into what we were asking for. Two, give it examples of good input, right? So you can take and you can refine your concept. Again, Jordan did that here. It basically went, hey, I like these, rewrite these. He gave it actually iterations of feedback to get closer to what he was actually looking for. And then finally, save your prompts, because seriously, pull out the stopwatch and watch how much time that you can burn just screwing around sitting in front of a ChatGPT window. It's a lot. And a lot of times, I'm amazed at how many people just forget them and don't come back to them ever. It's like, keep that thing. It's useful. Come back to it. So yeah, we'll absolutely make this available too. So if you want to use the text on the right.
And Steve, I wanted to show one more thing. Could you pull up my screen? I'm going to show you one additional hack here. So if you Google tree of thought, this is like the deep scientific paper. And I'm like, I have no idea. I mean, like, this is like way beyond me, but it's not beyond ChatGPT. So what I did is I put it into ChatGPT Splitter, which just split up this entire PDF. So all you have to do is go copy and paste each of these into ChatGPT and say, I'm trying to create a prompt engineering friend that will help me evaluate prompts. So you can use the latest scientific research on how to get these models to perform better. And then you can have ChatGPT summarize the latest stuff, which, by the way, remember, its knowledge cut off in 2021 September. So this will allow it to take the latest research, and then it will give me a prompt that I can always use to help improve my prompts. And then you can actually make it help you in ChatGPT. You can, let's see, let me continue this conversation. I'll show you the, if you go here and you go custom instructions. So these are the custom instructions. These are my custom instructions. And I had ChatGPT help me write custom instructions. So how do you want ChatGPT to respond? And it's like, I want you to challenge me So you can paste in this paper, and then you can say, I'm creating custom instructions for myself that will always help me use the tree of thought framework to improve my prompts. And that way it'll always be with you to help those type of things. All right, let's
Love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Great. Dan, are you still there?
I'm here. Yep.
Okay.
Let's see. I can't remember if we were at the end of that slide deck or not. We may have one or two left. Yeah.
Yeah, we got one or two left. So we're talking about, I mean, the other thing, which is, it's about,
Okay, so we talked a little bit about the different types of AI earlier, and this is the output that comes out of the machine learning models. Remember, they're the ones that actually help you make a decision of true or false, this or that. They spit out what's called feature weights. It's kind of like the recipe for the model. What worked, what didn't, what type of data was valuable in making a specific prediction. And this is the recipe from a model that was designed to predict who was going to become a customer. So again, when we're looking at these, we're going, okay, let's break out basically the product and content that was used in the emails and the other and the advertisements that were sent to the individual. Let's look at, again, analyze them a little bit and see if we can understand personality traits, product adoption, meaning their behavior within the category. Let's look at brand affinities. So these are other values that are associated with the brand. Like, hey, do you identify with, like, if it's Nike, it's individualized effort. If it's Apple, think different, right? The thing that, you remember that slide earlier with all of the different bar charts when people don't really know what matters. Now, they don't always follow this exact recipe. But the point that we wanted to make here is just that understand behaviors are substantially more predictive than most people understand. They don't put nearly enough weight into those. And oftentimes when you look at it, like, look, professional B2C and demographics, geographics, and things like that, oftentimes things like job title are actually a lot less predictive than they think. And a lot of people don't know. If you went and you go and type in, like, if you go download 10,000 people off of LinkedIn right now, 8,000 of them plus are going to have totally different and totally unique job titles. No one just used, like, other than like CEO, CMO, almost everybody else is like a prompt engineer. I'm a dynamic, whatever, right? They're not nearly as usable as people think they are.
Well, as an example, you might be an account executive at one company, and then you go to, another company, and now you're a sales manager, and then the managers are directors, the directors are VP. So there's all this like title inflation, and people just make stuff up because they don't want to be an account executive, for example, because it's hard to sell when you're, there's all sorts of stuff like that where you need to dive deeper than just what they happen to put on LinkedIn.
Yeah. So when you do, and when you're looking at it, I mean, this is kind of what some of our technology tries to specialize in doing, and automating the research to understand kind of some of those behaviors, what people's activity is in the category, and other things that help you zoom in. And again, you're providing a lot of them, same way kind of Jordan's using them from prompt perspective. Again, when we go through and we go, okay, cool, we made this, we built the prompts, we built the ad copy, we analyzed the people that actually became customers, what matters. This stuff is the stuff that ultimately does matter. It's the stuff that if you're building personas, I would suggest you spend your time on, because it's going to go a lot further when you actually check your work and go, okay, personas and ICP, like if you go look, a lot of people have a totally different understanding of what should or should not be in there. And most of the time, after they implement them, usually they throw them in a drawer. But if they actually implement them, they're oftentimes making guesses and trade-offs on what ultimately matters. So snapshot this in your head, because oftentimes it can help you get a lot further into what you should be paying attention to. Let's see what else we got. One more.
I think that was the last one we had there. I think we're talking about the offer was the next one, but
sure.
Yeah, I think one of the things, I do want to show that, but I think one of the things that you guys do that's so cool is you give us insight before we even talk to someone about who they are, what type, how to convey information to that person in ways that there's no way we would have known just by, looking at their title or pulling their name and email address. But is this person a caring creative? Are they, early adopter or late adopter? There's those insights that you've got that are really, that help you tailor that message. And you mentioned hyper personalization earlier. It helps us hyper personalize that message more than, and I'd say argue in a more important way than, hey, you went to University of Utah and your mascot is is Swoop, the red-tailed hawk. Therefore, No one cares, but
Yeah.
there's a way I receive information. I care because go Utes, but there's there's a way that, you know, I like getting the information, but that, you know, when I'm talking about work that is important to me, and that's part of what, you know, you guys are doing. I think it's part of what it's important to dive into, and it's stuff that you wouldn't even think about. And I love the example you give about 3 exclamation marks, for example.
Oh yeah. So that's, man. Is it all right if I share my screen really quickly?
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead and add that, and I'll just I'll throw it up there.
All right, me. I'll just do. Can you guys see my screen?
Not yet. And you just gotta.
Present share screen.
If you go to present, share screen, and then I can, once it pops up, I can.
Well, let me. I'll do it on the.
Okay.
I'll do it on the. It's going to ask me for permissions because this is a new product. But I'll tell you what, as a part of the offer, that'll save time and things as well. But if you want to see how we do this at Wrench, you know, again, we'll automatically, like to Steve's point, our job is to basically automate and take a lot of the guesswork out of the questions of who do we talk to, what do we say, and how do we say it. You know, we use a generative AI to basically help generate some of that same kind of content as well. So, you know, you put in your LinkedIn URL, you put in an email address. We basically will go and look it up. We'll capture the digital exhaust from that person. What words are they saying? What likes do they have? What brands do they mention? And then we'll capture other things like other nifty little personality traits, like to Steve's point, little tricks like, hey, if someone uses 3 exclamation points, they're almost exclusively extroverts. They're the only people that seem to do that. So this technology has just hundreds and hundreds of rules that start to identify different personalities, and then we lay on machine learning and other ways to predict it from other things. And we can start to tell you, okay, here's the person, here's their activity in your category, here's their personality or their like personality, so that when you're taking that content from those prompts that Jordan provides, you can say, does this email with its mention of whatever it is, big hippopotamuses and anacondas or whatever else, can you
galaxies,
say it's actually relevant to Dan, my recipient? And Wrench will say, hey, Dan actually knows what anacondas are. So yes, send it to this one. The offer that I've got for you, if you guys want to come and try some of our tech, I'm happy. There it is. If you come and sign up for the Wrench Tech, we're at Wrench.ai or web.wrench.ai is the application. So if you want to come and sign up and use you can email me and use Signals Beta, and we will give you $500 off a team plan. So that's more than a couple months worth of free tickets. We've got 50 of those coupon codes, but we'll give away basically, you know, $20-something thousand worth of usage credits on Wrench. So you can use those to analyze your audiences here. You can run personas and build persona profiles, all types of generate content, all types of fun stuff.
And if you email me, if you go to intent.blueprintgtm.com, log in, and you email me the word anaconda, I'll give you a month for free of my data too.
I do want to, and guys, just so you know, both of these are awesome tools. I've used both of them and loved them. So, and if you've got questions about it, reach out to me and I'll tell you how great they are or how they can be used. I do think we want to finish on one thing. While we're rolling and we were recording, we went to Chat GPT and we asked it a question. Jordan, I'm going to let you, because you had more fun with it than I did. I'll let you run with it.
We really wanted to know what ChatGPT thought about the anaconda. And so I have my custom instructions that it's like, it seems like it's not related to your core business objectives, but I'll do it anyways, that's how I want a good employee to respond. It's like, I don't think you're making any sense, but what am I doing? You're not paying me for that. So it's highly discouraged and dangerous, like a powerful creature, significant threats. So I said, but my friend has done this. He said he did to get your attention, but can you provide guidance to Dan on other things he can do to people that will be just as shocking, but less dangerous to his health? So it's like, certainly creative marketing campaigns. So it got way businessy. I said, no, give me crazy ideas, 100% unrelated B2B SaaS. It's like, okay, great. Create a world record. Dan could do that. Flash mob performance, right? Create an urban garden. Like, these were okay, I think. But I was like, but Steve is from Utah. Give me Utah ideas. I meant Dan's from Utah. Salt Flat Arts, like Desert Music Festival. Okay, these are a little bit better. Mountain Flash Mob, like, okay, Dan probably wants to only spend 3 hours, but these, like, what can you do that's very fast and even more shocking, right? skywriting messages, flash freeze mob, like painted rock surprise. And then it said, quick extreme hair transformation. I said, Dan has more like beard hair. So beard sculpting. So it's like this again, right? Beard dyeing, like Utah landmark beard art. Oh my God. Can you do a delicate arch? Like, that's great. A beard treasure hunt. If you can find a coupon code in Dan's beard, he will give you a year for free. So
there we go. There we go.
Beard food challenges, edible replicas of Dan's beard. Like, that's a great campaign idea. So this is how you should get ChatGPT to come up with ridiculous.
It's actually, that's pretty damn good. One of the favorite things I ever had, one of my coworkers just put a sign on my cubicle, and it just had a picture of Seth Rogen and then a plus sign and a picture of Hagrid, and it just went Dan Baird. And I went, yeah, nah, that's pretty much it.
Well, I think we went off the rails there a little bit at the end, but
We did.
you know, the idea is, you know, there's so much that we can there's so much that we can go ahead and do with ChatGPT. We got to get creative, and you got to not be afraid to do the work. Jordan, thank you so much for those campaigns, those threads on how to go ahead and kind of use that and fine tune some of those campaigns, subject ideas, and offers. Dan, your insights into general predictive text and how to go ahead and use this and be more specific and hyper personalized. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much, guys. I think we're going to leave it there. And if you have any questions, I know both these guys are really active on LinkedIn, as am I. Feel free to reach out to us, connect with them, and ask away. And with that, we'll leave it there.
Thanks so much for having me. Steve, really appreciate it. Thanks for being my co-panelist here, Dan. I'm so grateful.
I got you, sir. Had a great time. Thank you.